The Empire had ruled the stars for centuries. Their fleets stretched across countless worlds, their power unmatched. No one dared challenge them, or so they thought. In the quiet observation room of the Empire's capital, a small group of scientists huddled around glowing screens. They were tense, their eyes flicking from one monitor to another. Strange readings had appeared at the outer border of Empire space, readings that no one could explain. "Sir," said Commander Varric, pointing at the data. The sensors picked up unusual energy spikes at the Valeris border. "They're growing stronger every hour." The official in charge, Minister Kale, frowned. He was a tall man, dressed in crisp imperial robes with an air of impatience. "Energy spikes? Sounds like space weather. Are you trying to scare me?" Varric's hand trembled slightly. "No, sir. These readings, they don't match any natural phenomena we've seen. And the patterns," he paused, "well, they suggest intelligence. Something is out there. Something we don't understand." Kyle waved a hand dismissively. "Intelligence? Don't be ridiculous. Our fleets patrol these borders daily. Nothing threatens the Empire. You are letting paranoia cloud your judgment." The scientists exchanged worried glances. They had seen the same patterns before in historical data, patterns that had preceded disasters. But their warnings fell on deaf ears. The Empire had grown used to its power. It had grown used to winning. Fear was not part of their vocabulary. Still, Varric sent a private message to the Empire's central command. He wanted to make sure anyone listened if disaster struck. Meanwhile, on the edge of known space, scout ships moved like shadows. They were sleek, fast, and equipped with the latest Imperial technology. Their mission was simple: investigate the strange energy spikes and report back. But even as they approached the border, something felt wrong. Captain Lyra, in command of scout ship Aegis, stared at her instruments. "These readings don't make sense," she muttered. "It's like the energy is alive, reacting to us." Her first officer, Jalen, frowned. "Alive, Captain, it's probably a fluctuation. Let's stay focused on the mission." Lyra shook her head.
"No, Jalen, there's something here."
Something watching. The ship's sensors picked up a faint signal, a transmission that seemed to repeat itself over and over, garbled, almost like a warning, but the words could not be understood. It was as if the signal came from a mind far beyond human comprehension. Back at the Empire's capital, Kale glanced at the data streaming in from the scouts. "Everything seems normal," he said. "No need to panic." He dismissed the other officers who had gathered to discuss the border alerts. "You are all overreacting. The Empire has never failed, and it won't fail now." Varric clenched his fists. He wanted to argue, to shout, but he knew it was useless. The Empire's pride blinded them. Hours passed. The scouts sent another transmission, shorter this time. Captain Lyra's voice sounded urgent, strained. Energy patterns, unpredictable. Sensors failing. And then silence. The room fell quiet. Every officer stared at the monitors, waiting for more. But nothing came. No sound, no signal, nothing. It was as if the scout ship had vanished into thin air. Kale frowned. Probably a technical issue. Nothing more. He stood up, straightening his robes, and left the observation room. "Keep watching. Report if anything unusual happens. But do not panic. The Empire is safe." Varric's stomach twisted. He had studied these energy patterns for years. He knew the scouts were in danger. He knew the Empire was ignoring the first signs of disaster. And yet he could do nothing. Out at the border, the stars seemed different. They shimmered strangely, as if the void itself had shifted. Captain Lyra's crew worked frantically, trying to understand what had happened to the first scouts. Every instrument was failing, every reading contradictory. "Captain, something's coming," Jalen said, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't describe it." "It's like the darkness itself is moving." Lyra's heart pounded. She tried to steady her voice. "Report it to the Empire," she ordered. "Send everything we have." But the transmission never reached Central Command. Somewhere between the scout ship and the Empire, the message disappeared. Silence replaced it. The crew of Aegis felt the cold weight of fear pressing down. They had been trained for danger, prepared for anything. Yet this was different. It was as if the border itself had come alive, watching them, judging them. Days passed in the capital. The Empire remained confident. Kale continued his meetings, discussing trade, military expansion, and politics. To him, the missing scouts were an inconvenience, not a warning. Varric could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the final transmission. The panic in Captain Lyra's voice, the garbled signals, the silence that followed. He knew it was a message the Empire refused to understand. That power alone did not guarantee safety. That arrogance could blind even the strongest. Out at the border, the energy spikes grew. They pulsed like a heartbeat, a slow, menacing rhythm that stretched across the void. And the scouts, cut off from help, faced the unknown alone. The Empire had ignored the warning, and soon it would learn that silence could be louder than any scream. The first part of the story ends with a haunting silence over the border. The audience is left wondering what is out there. What happened to the scouts? The suspense hooks them for the next part. The Empire had always believed itself invincible. Their fleets spanned countless star systems, and their borders were thought to be impenetrable. Yet at the edge of known space, something stirred, something that defied logic, reason, and every precaution the Empire had taken. Commander Varric paced his office, eyes fixed on the glowing holographic map of the Valeris border. Several days had passed since the first scout ships vanished. The Empire's leadership insisted that it was a minor issue, a technical failure, perhaps a navigational error. But Varric knew better. They are not lost by accident, he muttered to himself. Something is out there and it's waiting. His assistant, a young officer named Rena, looked up nervously. Commander, the Central Command still hasn't responded to the warning. They say everything is normal. Varric shook his head. Normal? Normal would be knowing why our scouts disappeared. This is not normal, and soon the Empire will pay for ignoring it. Far beyond the safety of the Empire's worlds, the remnants of the first scout ship's signals flickered in the void. Captain Lyra's ship had vanished without a trace. But traces of their last data transmission still lingered in the empty stretches of space. Lieutenant Jalen studied the readings with a sense of growing dread. Captain, look at this, he said. The energy spikes are changing. They're spreading, and it's almost like they're moving toward us. Lyra's face grew pale. Moving toward us? She whispered. That's impossible. Energy doesn't move like a living thing. Jalen shook his head. I don't know what to call it, Captain. But it's intelligent. And it's aware of us. The crew worked silently, the hum of the ship's engines filling the tension-filled room. Instruments flickered, readings fluctuated wildly, and strange, faint whispers echoed through the ship's communication systems. No one could understand the whispers, but they sent a chill down every spine. Back at the Empire's capital, Minister Kale held a meeting with his advisors. These reports are disturbing, he said, but we cannot overreact. Our fleets are strong. Our borders are secure. This is an anomaly, nothing more. Varric, present at the meeting, clenched his fists. He had seen anomalies before, but this was unlike anything he had studied. Sir, the anomalies are not natural. They are growing. If we do not act, we risk losing the border and perhaps more. Kyle waved him off. We cannot base policy on fear. The Empire does not retreat. Varric's eyes burned with frustration. He had studied the borders of space for decades. He knew when danger was near, and he knew the Empire's arrogance could be fatal. On the border, the second scout fleet moved cautiously. Captain Lyra and her crew approached the epicenter of the strange energy, hoping to find answers, hoping to survive. The vastness of space stretched endlessly around them, black and quiet, yet full of unseen danger. Sensors are failing again, Jalen said. We're losing power in some systems. Something is interfering. Lyra gritted her teeth. Hold steady. We cannot turn back. We must find what caused the first scouts to disappear. A sudden jolt shook the ship. Red warning lights flashed. The crew scrambled to their stations. What was that? Asked an engineer. I don't know, Lyra admitted. But whatever it is, it's powerful. The crew watched in horror as a strange wave of energy passed by the ship. Space around them shimmered unnaturally, stars bending as if reality itself was warping. The ship's instruments could barely keep up. Back on the Empire's Central Command, alarms suddenly blared. Data screens showed flickering readings from multiple scout ships. The Empire had been warned, but now they were starting to see the first undeniable signs of danger. Kale stared at the monitors, his confidence wavering for the first time. What is happening? He asked, voice tight. Varric stepped forward, pointing at the data. This is what I warned you about. Something is out there, something we cannot control, and it is already affecting our ships. Kale's face darkened. Send reinforcements, he ordered. We will not lose the border. Varric shook his head. Reinforcements may not help. We don't understand what we're dealing with. Every ship we send risks the same fate as the first. Meanwhile, on the border, Captain Lyra's ship drifted through the strange, shifting energy. The stars seemed to twist around them. The whispers grew louder, filling the ship with an eerie chorus of sounds that felt almost alive. Captain, I think it's watching us, Jalen said, voice shaking. Lyra's heart pounded. Watching? Why would... What is it? Before they could answer, a sudden transmission broke through the static. A voice, distorted and urgent, almost human, but not quite. Turn back. Leave. Danger. Then silence. The crew exchanged terrified glances. The warning was clear, but they had nowhere to turn. The unknown force at the border was already testing them, teasing them, showing its power. On the Empire's homeworlds, Varric's warnings were finally gaining attention, but it was too late. Panic was starting to spread. The Empire's leaders realized that their pride and arrogance might have blinded them to a threat that could not be ignored. At the edge of known space, Captain Lyra's ship moved forward, deeper into the unknown. The energy around them pulsed, alive and relentless. The whispers grew louder, carrying a sense of warning and of death. The Empire had ignored the first signs. Now the second scouts faced the consequences. The Empire had grown comfortable in its power. Centuries of dominance across the stars had taught its leaders one thing: nothing could threaten them. Yet at the edge of known space, the universe was proving otherwise. Captain Lyra's ship, the Aegis, drifted silently through the unnatural energy that now surrounded the Valeris border. The crew had become tense, their eyes glued to flickering screens that barely functioned. The strange energy pulsed around them like a heartbeat, a silent, deliberate rhythm that filled the ship with unease. Lieutenant Jalen stared at the readings, voice barely a whisper. Captain, it's growing stronger. The energy, it's adapting. Every time we move, it changes, like it knows what we're doing. Lyra's hands tightened around the console. Then we have to be careful. Every decision counts now. We cannot make a mistake. The crew had been trained for countless emergencies, meteor showers, pirate attacks, even rogue black holes. But nothing could have prepared them for this. The energy was alive, intelligent, and patient. It moved with a purpose, as if studying them, probing their minds, testing their resolve. Captain, Jalen said, eyes wide, I think it's trying to communicate. Look at the readings, it's... Repeating a pattern. It's like a language, but not one I've ever seen before. Lyra frowned. Then we have to record everything. Every pulse, every shift. Maybe someone back at the Empire can decipher it. She pressed the transmit button, sending a detailed report to Central Command. Static filled the communications channel. Then a voice, distorted and urgent, cut through the interference. Turn back. Danger, do not proceed. The voice was barely human, yet recognizable. It carried fear and warning, a desperate plea from someone or something on the other side. The transmission ended abruptly, replaced by silence. The monitors flickered. The instruments began to fail one by one. The Aegis shuddered, the artificial gravity wavering. Report, Lyra shouted. Status. All systems are failing, Captain, said the engineer. Communications, sensors, life support. Everything is fluctuating. It's like the ship itself is under attack. No, under... Observation. The crew worked frantically to stabilize the systems. Warnings flashed red across the consoles. Outside, the stars seemed to bend, stretch, and shimmer unnaturally. The void itself felt wrong. Jalen spoke again, voice trembling. Captain, the signal. The first scouts. Whatever was there. It's them. It's trying to tell us something. But what? Lyra's mind raced. We have to finish the report. The Empire needs to understand what's happening here. No matter the cost, hours passed. The crew documented every detail, sending fragmented transmissions whenever the systems allowed. Each message carried more warnings, more evidence of the danger. But Central Command received only distorted fragments. Words cut off mid-sentence, alarms, and finally, Silence, Captain, Jalen said, pointing at the monitor. There's a new reading. Something massive. Bigger than anything we've seen. It's coming toward us, Lyra swallowed hard. Prepare shields. Maximum power. And hold steady. Whatever it is, we face it together. The energy around the ship pulsed violently as if reacting to their fear. The whispers returned, louder now, surrounding them, echoing in the ship's corridors. Some crew members covered their ears, unable to bear the sound. Then a sudden jolt. The Aegis shook violently, throwing crew members off their feet. Lights flickered. Panels sparked. "Brace for impact!" Lyra shouted. The ship lurched forward as a massive wave of energy passed over it. Instruments went dark. The starfield outside vanished, replaced by an endless black void that seemed to stretch into eternity. The whispers stopped. Silence. For a moment there was nothing. The crew floated in darkness, hearts pounding, minds racing. Then from the void a single transmission came. Lyra heard her own voice first, then Jalen's, distorted and strange, almost like an echo from another reality. "Help. Us, please." Warning, Empire. And then silence. The Aegis drifted, powerless. The energy pulses surrounded them, watching, waiting. The stars returned slowly, but they looked wrong. Alien, distant. The ship's instruments were barely functioning. The crew was shaken, exhausted, terrified, but alive. For now. Back at the Empire's capital, Varek's warnings had become more urgent. The reports from the scouts were incomplete, fragmented, garbled. But the message was clear. The Empire was facing something beyond understanding. Minister Kale paced angrily. "Commander, the reports are chaotic. There is no clear threat." "You are exaggerating." Varek's eyes burned. "No, sir. The scouts are reporting phenomena beyond our science, beyond our technology. Something intelligent is out there. Something that can and will destroy our ships if we continue to ignore it." Kale slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. We are the Empire. We do not retreat. We do not fear the unknown." Varek shook his head, frustration and fear in his eyes. "That arrogance may be our undoing." Back on the border, the Aegis remained adrift. The crew worked to repair what they could, sending out transmissions in the hope that someone, anyone, would receive them. But the Empire's pride had blinded it. The warnings had been ignored, and now only fragments of the truth remained. The last transmission from Captain Lyra's crew was a ghostly echo, a warning lost in the void. Outside, the strange energy pulsed, alive and patient, watching the Empire's scouts with cold, indifferent curiosity. Whatever it was waiting, waiting for the next mistake, the next act of arrogance. And the silence that followed was deafening. The Empire had always prided itself on courage, on strength, on the ability to face any danger. Yet at the Valeris border, courage alone would not be enough. Captain Lyra's ship, the Aegis, drifted into the heart of the mysterious energy. The stars around them shimmered strangely, bending and twisting as if reality itself had been reshaped. Every instrument flickered, every light trembled, and the hum of the engine sounded unnatural, warped, distorted, alive. Lieutenant Jalen stared at the readings, voice tight. "Captain, it's reacting to us. Every movement we make, it changes. It's almost intelligent." Lyra's fingers danced across the console. "Then we move carefully, slow and deliberate. Every action counts. We cannot afford to make a mistake." The crew worked in tense silence. The corridors of the Aegis were dimly lit, shadows stretching unnaturally as if the energy outside was creeping inside. The ship groaned under pressure, panels sparking, lights flickering. Every creak, every sound seemed amplified in the unnatural stillness. Suddenly, a wave of energy passed over the ship. The crew felt a physical force pressing down, heavy and suffocating. Instruments went dark. The stars outside disappeared. Panic flashed in the eyes of every officer. "Report," Lyra shouted. "Status. All systems are fluctuating, Captain," shouted the engineer. "Life support, shields, communications. Everything is unstable." Jalen's voice trembled. It's watching us, studying us." Lyra swallowed hard. "Then we survive by staying calm. Focus, that's the only way." The ship moved slowly through the shimmering void. Strange shapes flickered at the edge of vision, shadows that seemed to move with purpose. Crew members whispered to each other nervously, but the words were swallowed by the eerie hum that filled the ship. Hours passed. The crew documented every anomaly, every shift in the energy. They recorded everything, hoping that someday the Empire might understand the danger they faced. But each recording felt inadequate. The energy was more than science, more than technology. It was alive, and it defied understanding. Then, the unexpected happened. A transmission from an unknown source broke through the static. It was brief, garbled, almost lost to the noise, but it was unmistakable. "Leave, border, danger." Alive, leave. The crew stared at the console in shock. It was not human. It was not a language they could fully understand, yet the meaning was clear. Something beyond comprehension was warning them. Captain Lyra's voice was firm. We do not turn back. We need answers and we will find them. The ship pressed forward deeper into the forbidden border. The energy around them pulsed violently like a heartbeat, responding to their every move. Shadows flickered across the walls and faint whispers echoed through the corridors, unintelligible yet filled with intent. Suddenly the ship jolted violently. Panels sparked. Crew members were thrown off their feet. Red alarms flashed across every console. Brace for impact, Lyra shouted. The Aegis shook as if struck by an invisible hand. The lights went out, replaced by the eerie glow of the energy outside. Shadows moved faster now, dancing across the walls, and whispers grew louder, almost forming words. Jalen's voice was trembling. Captain, it knows we're here. It's alive. Watching us, Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then we survive by not panicking. Focus, everyone. Focus. The ship's sensors detected massive fluctuations in the energy field. It was vast, immense, like an ocean of living power. And at the center, something moved. Something that radiated intelligence, menace, and patience. The crew realized with growing terror that they had crossed a line. The forbidden border was not just a boundary of space. It was a boundary of understanding. A place where the laws of physics and reality bent, twisted, and warped. Hours turned into tense silence. The ship drifted through the energy, instruments failing, crew exhausted, hearts racing. Each step forward felt like trespassing, like they were intruders in a realm that was not meant to be touched. Then, a transmission from the Aegis's logs played back automatically. A message from the first scouts, distorted and broken, repeating over and over, do not proceed, danger, alive, leave. The crew shivered. The warning was clear. They were not the first to enter this forbidden zone, and those who came before had vanished. Yet Lyra pressed forward. We need to know. We need to survive. And we will bring this knowledge back to the Empire. The shadows outside moved closer. The whispers became clearer, almost forming words in a language no human could understand. The energy pulsed violently, reacting to every action of the ship, every heartbeat, every thought. The Aegis was no longer just a ship. It was an intruder in a living, thinking realm. And the crew understood in that terrifying moment that they were not in control. The Aegis had ventured far beyond the Empire's borders, deep into the unknown. The forbidden region of space pulsed with energy that seemed alive, intelligent and patient. Captain Lyra and her crew had seen strange shadows, heard whispers that were not human, and witnessed instruments failing as if reality itself was bending. Yet nothing had prepared them for what was about to happen. Lieutenant Jalen stared at the console, voice tight. Captain, multiple signals from our sensors are disappearing. Entire sections of space. Gone, not a trace. It's like the universe itself is erasing them. Lyra's face hardened. Keep tracking everything. Document every disappearance. The Empire needs to know. We need to survive this. The crew worked frantically. Every system on the ship struggled to function. Life support fluctuated. Communications went in and out, and gravity seemed to shift in random patterns. The shadows outside the ship moved faster now, almost like they were hunting. Then it began. One by one, crew members started vanishing. First, it was the engineers working near the outer hull. One moment they were checking a panel. The next, they were gone, leaving behind only a faint echo of their last words. Panic spread through the corridors. Where are they? Shouted Jalen, gripping the console. Captain, we need to get out of here. Lyra's voice was steady, though her eyes burned with fear. We can't turn back, not yet. We need to understand what's happening. Keep calm, focus. But calm was impossible. The ship seemed alive, twisting around them. Panels flashed red, lights flickered, and the hum of the engines became a deep, pulsing growl. Shadows flickered across every wall, moving independently, as if the energy outside had seeped inside. Suddenly, the main communication console lit up. It was a transmission, fragmented, distorted, almost lost in static. It was the last transmission from the first scout fleet. Do not proceed. Danger. Alive. Leave. The words repeated endlessly. The crew watched in horror. Whatever had taken the first scouts was the same force they faced now. A sudden jolt threw Lyra across the command room. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. The stars outside twisted and disappeared, replaced by an endless black void that seemed to stretch forever. Jalen grabbed a console, trying to stabilize the ship. "Captain, it's coming closer. Whatever this is, it's intelligent. It knows we're here. It's hunting us." Lyra's jaw tightened. "We survive by staying together. We document everything. We fight if we must, but do not panic." Another crew member vanished, this time a navigator who had been plotting their course. 1 second she was there. The next, only a faint echo of her voice remained. The remaining crew huddled together, hearts racing, minds on edge. Fear had become a physical presence, pressing down on them like the weight of the energy outside. Then, a massive surge of power hit the Aegis. The ship groaned under the strain. Panels exploded. Lights flickered violently. The crew screamed as the energy pushed against them like a tidal wave. Outside, shadows twisted and moved, forming shapes that were almost, but not quite, human. They seemed to reach for the ship, probing, testing, and watching. Jalen's hands flew over the console. "Captain, shields at maximum. We can't stop this." Lyra gritted her teeth. "Hold on. Whatever happens, we survive." The Aegis lurched again, and the shadows outside became more defined, more menacing. The whispers that had haunted them since entering the forbidden border grew louder, forming a cacophony of voices that seemed to speak directly into their minds. "You, leave! Alive! Leave!" The message repeated, distorted and urgent. The crew understood the meaning without understanding the language. The force outside was giving them a choice: survive by retreating or perish by defiance. Hours passed. Time seemed meaningless in the energy's grasp. The crew fought exhaustion, terror, and the strange pull of the force surrounding them. Each disappearance added weight to their fear. Each whisper added confusion to their minds. Then a sudden calm fell over the ship. The energy pulses slowed. Shadows receded slightly. The Aegis floated in an eerie silence. Captain Lyra stared at the void outside. "We survived, for now," she whispered, voice trembling. "But we've lost too many, and this is far from over." Lieutenant Jalen looked at the remaining crew, eyes wide. "Captain, the Empire. They won't believe this, not yet. They've ignored the warning, and now, we've seen the cost." Lyra nodded, gripping the console tightly. "Then we document everything. Every disappearance. Every pulse. Every whisper. The Empire needs to know, and they will." But even as they tried to recover, the shadows remained at the edge of their vision. The whispers lingered, faint but constant. A reminder that the force they faced was patient, intelligent, and unstoppable. Back at the heart of the Empire, the halls of the Central Command were filled with tension. For days, fragmented reports had been arriving from the Valaris border. Sensors were failing, ships were vanishing, and transmissions were garbled, carrying desperate warnings that no one fully understood. Minister Kale paced angrily, his robe swishing across the polished floor. "These reports are chaos. Nothing is clear. Commander Varric, tell me, what is happening?" Varric's face was pale, his eyes burning with urgency. "Sir, the scouts are not exaggerating. Something beyond our science is at the border. It's intelligent. It's capable of erasing ships, hiding from our sensors, and..." Kale slammed a fist onto the table. "Enough! We are the Empire. Nothing can threaten us. You're letting fear cloud your judgment." Varric clenched his jaw. "Minister, this is not fear. This is fact. Our fleets are at risk. The first scouts are gone, the second fleet is under attack, and the energy, whatever it is watching us. If we continue to ignore it, the Empire could lose its border worlds." Silence fell in the room. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. The Empire had never faced a threat it could not control. And yet the evidence was undeniable. Ships had disappeared. Entire transmissions had vanished. Something at the Valaris border was beyond understanding, beyond technology, beyond human comprehension. Kale turned sharply, pacing again. "Send reinforcements," he barked. "We will show this at force, that the Empire is not afraid." Varric shook his head. "Sir, sending more ships may only make it worse. We do not understand what we are dealing with. Every ship sent risks the same fate as the first. We are unprepared. The Empire is unprepared." At that moment, another officer rushed in, breathless. "Minister, another transmission just arrived. It's the second scout fleet, or what's left of it."
"Captain Lyra."
Kale's face paled. Well, speak. The officer hesitated, glancing at Varric. The message? It's fragmented. Instruments failing, crew vanishing. Captain Lyra and her team report. Energy, alive. Intelligent, it's a racing ship, sir. And the rest of the fleet may already be lost. The room went still. Every officer felt a chill. The Empire, confident for centuries, had been confronted with a reality it could not control. Varric stepped forward, voice low but urgent. Minister, this is why I warned you. The Empire ignored the first warning. Now the evidence is undeniable. We cannot fight this as we would a normal enemy. It is something else. Something alive, something patient, and it is already inside our borders. Kale's hands trembled slightly. He had always been proud of the Empire's power, its fleets, and its dominance over the stars. Now, for the first time, doubt crept in. He realized that his pride may have blinded him to the danger. Meanwhile, across the Empire, news of the missing ships began to spread. Citizens whispered in fear, questioning what had happened at the border. The once unshakable confidence in the Empire's might was cracking. Back at the border, Captain Lyra's ship drifted through the living energy. The surviving crew were exhausted, traumatized by the vanishings of their fellow officers. Every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of light reminded them that the force surrounding them was patient, intelligent, and unstoppable. Captain, we can't stay here forever, Jalen said, voice shaking. Every moment, the energy, it's growing stronger. Watching us, testing us, Lyra nodded, her hands tight on the console. I know, Jalen, we have to survive. We must get back, or at least send the full data to the Empire. They need to know the truth. But as the Aegis tried to plot a safe course back, the energy responded. Pulses of power struck the ship, causing shields to flare and systems to fail. Shadows outside stretched closer, almost pressing against the hull. Back at the Empire, Kyle convened an emergency council. We must act, he said, his voice sharper now, almost desperate. Send every available fleet. Deploy everything we have. We cannot lose the Valaris border. Varric shook his head. Sir, more fleets will not solve this. We do not understand it. The first ships are gone. The second fleet is barely holding together. We need knowledge, not numbers. Strategy, not arrogance. Kale's eyes flashed with frustration. I am the Empire. Knowledge will not protect us if our fleets are destroyed. We must strike. Varric's voice dropped to a warning. Then we will strike blindly, and we will lose more than we can imagine. The Empire has ignored warnings for too long. We are already in shock, sir. We may not recover if this continues. Outside the capital, across countless worlds, the Empire's citizens felt unease and fear growing. The borders they once thought secure were now unknown, dangerous, and possibly lost. At the Valaris border, the Aegis continued its struggle. The whispers outside became almost intelligible now, forming fragments of warning and command. Shadows flickered and shifted with intent. Every system on the ship was compromised, yet the crew pressed on, documenting, surviving, and hoping. The Empire was in shock. Its pride had been shaken, its fleets were threatened, and for the first time, leaders and citizens alike realized that some forces in the universe were beyond their understanding, beyond their control. The Empire had finally realized the truth. Their fleets, once symbols of unstoppable power, had been outmatched by something beyond comprehension. Reports from the Valaris border were fragmented, terrifying, and nearly impossible to understand. Ships had vanished. Crews had disappeared. Warnings had been ignored, and now the consequences were unavoidable. At the heart of the Central Command, Minister Kale paced with growing tension. Commander Varric stood before him, exhausted, pale, but determined. Sir, it's worse than we thought. Whatever is at the border is intelligent. It can manipulate energy, erase ships, and observe us. We cannot fight it with fleets alone. The Empire must learn first before it is too late. Kyle shook his head. I don't care what it is. We will not retreat. The Empire does not bow to fear. Varric's voice was low but urgent. Minister, this is not fear. This is reality. Pride will cost us our fleets, our colonies, and lives. The border is alive. It tests, it judges, and it destroys. And the first scouts lost. The second fleet almost gone. Only Captain Lyra's ship remains. For now. Meanwhile, far beyond the Empire's reach, the Aegis drifted in the living energy. Captain Lyra and her crew were exhausted, traumatized and haunted by the vanishings of their comrades. Shadows moved at the edge of their vision. Whispers filled the corridors. Every pulse of the energy around them felt like a heartbeat and a warning. "Captain, we can't go any further," Lieutenant Jalen said, his voice trembling. "Every system. It's failing. The energy. It's alive and it's waiting." Lyra's hands tightened on the console. "Then we survive by understanding. We record everything, every pulse, every shadow. The Empire needs this information. If we die, they must know the truth." The ship moved cautiously, each crew member aware that one wrong step could mean erasure. They reached the center of the energy field, a vast void that pulsed with intelligence, almost like a living mind. Shadows formed shapes that were eerie, almost humanoid, almost familiar. The whispers coalesced into a language the crew could not fully grasp. Yet they understood the meaning. "Leave. You are not ready." Suddenly, a clear transmission came through, the last voice of the vanished scouts. Distorted, fragmented, but unmistakable. "Do not continue. Alive. Leave. The border." The crew understood fully now. The Valaris border was not just a place. It was a test, a living, intelligent force that judged intruders and erased those unprepared. And the Empire, in its arrogance, had ignored the warnings. Captain Lyra took a deep breath. "Then we survive. We document. And we return. The Empire must learn humility before more lives are lost." The crew worked tirelessly, recording every detail. Every pulse, every shadow, every whisper was captured. The energy seemed to pulse in response, almost aware of their documentation, almost approving their respect. Meanwhile, back at the Empire's capital, Varric reviewed the incoming fragments of data from Lyra's ship. His face was grave. "The Empire underestimated what lies beyond our borders," he said. "We were arrogant. We believed in power alone. Now, we see that intelligence, patience, and the unknown can challenge even us." Kyle finally stood silent, staring at the monitors. The truth had arrived, undeniable. The Empire's pride had blinded it, and the cost had been immense. "Prepare fleets. But carefully," Varric said. "We cannot face this like a normal battle. Knowledge, observation, patience, that is how we survive." At the border, the Aegis began its slow retreat. The shadows remained at the edges of their vision, the whispers still echoing. But there was no sudden attack. The energy had tested them, observed them, and allowed them to leave. Alive. Captain Lyra recorded a final message. "The Empire must learn. Strength alone will not save us. There is intelligence here beyond our understanding. Humility, respect, and caution are the only ways to survive. This is the last transmission from the Aegis. We live, but we carry the warning." As silence fell over the Valaris border, the energy pulsed one final time, a heartbeat of the unknown, patient, eternal, and watching. The Empire had survived its first encounter, but it had been a warning. And the borders of space were no longer safe.